say, tell me where you really from. I ain't talking New York, I don't mean West Coast. I mean, look at your skin, so where you really from? I don't mean.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into Great Wall of America, Untold Stories, a limited podcast series where we as immigrants share our stories of how we overcome the barriers that face us in this country. Today's guest is Daisy Wang, a New York-based fashion designer by way of Qingdao, China. And her brand, DAWANG NYC, re-envisions and breathes a new life into the traditional Chinese clothing style. Truly an inspiration to me, and I'm very lucky to call her a friend. Here is Daisy Wang. What's going on, Daisy? How you doing?
Good to see you.
Yo,
Welcome back. It's been
you.
a while.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing your extra friend here, Boba.
Say hi to everyone.
Boba.
Sorry, she just can't focus.
Yeah, Boba will be the star of the show today. But yeah, thanks for coming. So where you really from?
So I was born and raised from Qingdao. Qingdao, we're in the northeastern port. It's a port city by the ocean right across from Korea. Moved here when I was 15, started boarding school in California, and then eventually moved to New York for fashion design as my major in Parsons, and just decided to stay for my startup brand, DAWANG. Yeah.
You call it a startup brand?
We're still starting up. I mean,
I like that. Yeah. I guess when I think of startup, I think of like tech companies.
That's
you
true.
know?
That's true. Yeah. Started my lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
DAWANG. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know like a lot about you. You know, like I didn't know you came. Well, for people listening, me and Daisy have been friends for some years. But I didn't know you came when you were 15.
Yeah.
I thought like you came like during college or something.
Yeah, no, I came a few years before that.
And you were in Cali.
I was in Cali, like
Where?
near the Bay Area. We're in Monterey, Carmel area,
Monterey.
Pebble Beach. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And your parents came over.
No, so I went to a boarding school, so I came by myself. Like I had like 4 suitcases with me, took the shuttle bus, a 2-hour drive from San Francisco airport to Pebble Beach, and just started my second life.
They want to get rid of you.
No, I really wanted to get out at the moment.
I see.
Yeah.
Got you. How did they feel about you wanting to come to America for school? Did they want you to stay in China?
Well, both of my parents wanted me. I mean, since growing up, like I started my primary school in international school. So growing up, I've had this idea, even in China. Right. So they've always had this idea of, okay, we're definitely gonna have your, college education outside of China, like somewhere, Australia, Canada, UK, America, and so when I was 12 years old, I went for my first summer camp that was in America. It was 1 month.
Where was that?
Mostly in LA, and I think we took a short detour to New York for like a week or so. And then the second year, because I really enjoyed that first year's programs, the second year I was like, okay, Mom, I kind of wanted to test out going to the UK for another summer camp. So I did that when I was 13, and then comparing with those two, I do think that I loved the American lifestyle a lot more.
Got it.
So 14, when I was prepping to finish our junior high education in China, I had the opportunity where a few of my friends were also prepping for their SSAT.
Got it.
Trying to start their high school life here. So that's when I decided, Mom, like I wanted to come to America and start my boarding school life here. Yeah.
So you could have chose UK.
I could have chose UK, and my dad
interesting.
actually had like a little bit of business in Australia when I was really little. So he actually really wanted me to go to Australia, but I've never been, since a kid, and I never really experienced that lifestyle. So I was just like, I do think I would feel more comfortable in America. Yeah.
You were like 14. You're thinking about your lifestyle preferences already.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Thank y'all for tuning into the Great Wall of America podcast. I just want to take a quick second now to give a shout out to Lunar Hard Seltzer, the sponsor for this series. Some of the best people, some of the best drinks, and they're always showing out for the community. So make sure you show them some love at Lunar Hard Seltzer. Back to the podcast. I like it. I mean, I think there's a lot of immigrants to Australia as well from China, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I mean, let's just get into DAWANG. I know. Okay, so for example, my name is Bohan Bohan, right?
Yeah.
Bohan Leng.
Yeah.
Leng is my last name.
Yeah.
But like in just over the years, I've kind of reduced it so it's easier for people to say. I say like Bohan Lang.
Yeah.
So I noticed when you say this brand's name, your brand's name, you say DAWANG.
Yeah.
But technically it's DAWANG, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you do that too? Because it's just like, all right, like I'm gonna just do the. I mean, I'll make it easier for people like that way. Or
well, when we first started off, I started calling it DAWANG and DAWANG, like both of them.
Right,
when it comes to like someone who's not like a native Chinese speaker, I wouldn't mind if they call it DAWANG, because I know like that's how people pronounce Wang in general, like within the American English style.
Yeah.
But since we launched, I think year 2, we started to try to do more education on the pronunciation part, which is why we updated our logo with the accents, so like where to do the da and where to say the wang.
I like that.
And then, even on our pinned page on our Instagram,
we
I
never
also
noticed that. That's cool. Yeah.
We also have like a little educational post on how you should be pronouncing DAWANG. But because I'm international, it took me so many years to learn English, try to be a little bit more professional when it comes to my pronunciation and everything. I understand the struggle of people trying to switch out the Wang and the Wang sound, because in general, I know like Wang is as a Hong Kong last name, they spell it as W-O-N-G.
Sure.
So people like, if they see W-O-N-G, they'll be like, oh, that's
it's
Wang.
Easier to pronounce. It's easier
to
pronounce.
Yeah. So
it's like the restaurant.
Exactly. So we're trying to kind of like slowly educate, but it's not like I'm gonna give you a huge drama. If I
can learn the name Guinevere,
they can definitely learn DAWANG.
You can say DAWANG instead of DAWANG. No, but I mean, I get it. I think so. You're saying like to like native speakers, you would say DAWANG.
DAWANG, yeah. I will definitely let
Maybe
them
I just
know
never
where
seen
it
that.
come from.
Yeah. That's cool. And thank you for the support over the years with DAWANG.
Anything for you.
I think rocking that piece, that 2 set at the Clippers halftime show. Was so cool, and it happened to be their color. That's what they were really happy about that, But so tell me, how did this startup get started? Was it like something you've always wanted to do, to make clothes? Because I know you said you went to international school in China. Were those arts related?
Not at all.
Okay.
So I never thought of myself as an artsy person. Growing up, I actually did more sports because my dad is a very athletic guy. So
What did you do?
I was professionally trained for badminton for like almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then swimming and a lot.
Go for
ever
that
since
Olympic
boarding
gold.
school. No, I actually had a moment where I was just like, maybe I do want to do this.
You're pretty
full-time.
tall.
I'm like not that, but for badminton, it's the perfect height. Because you don't want to go too tall for like badmintons. But I was professionally trained for a lot of the years, so I grew up being being like a very jumpy, extroverted girl that will never get popular in school because in China, all the teachers want you to be behaving, like you gotta be quiet, you gotta listen to the teachers. Where I'm like running around, trying to do like everything all at once. 很调皮. So I was never a favorite in the teacher's eyes. So it wasn't until starting boarding school in California, because we were required to take 1 year of art or music. And since I have no talent in music at all, like I tried to learn hulusi when I was little. That was the only instrument that I can play a little.
Hulusi is like it's like I'll throw a picture up, but it's like it's basically like a flute.
Yeah, it's basically like a flute, but it just has that little hulu on top.
Right.
Yeah, so
a gourd.
Yeah.
A gourd-shaped flute.
So I did learn that, but I was just like, we do not, in a Western educational world, there is no chance for me to actually play that. So I do appreciate my high school, like Stevenson, for this, that they offer fashion design as a course under like the art requirements. So knowing that I have no other talent in painting and drawing, I decided to take that course as my art 1 year. And from that, making my first garment, I was like, wow, like I've never felt so accomplished that I'm making something that I would want to wear, or I can even like, we had our mini fashion show in high school where I was dressing the models. I was like, I really enjoyed this process of creation, and that kind of inspired me. So that wasn't until like junior year of high school I was like, wow, I really enjoyed making my own clothes, and that kind of started the journey for me to catch up on like the basic of arts and sketching a little bit. And within the year, that was when we have to apply for all the colleges, like by the start of senior year. So like it was under a year's time where I decided, okay, I'm gonna go for the full art school route. So I didn't even apply to any like liberal arts regular colleges. I think I applied to 10 different art schools across the country, and of course Parsons, knowing it's best for fashion design, my goal was to move to New York and start my fashion life here.
So Parsons was like one of the top choices and you got in.
Well,
that's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so Stevens High School is where it got started. And you said this feeling that you said after you made your first garment, right? It's like accomplished feeling. Like you did something by yourself and meant something. 成就感, right? So I relate to that. You know, I think when I think my first time performing on stage was junior year in high school with my gospel choir. Because prior to that, I've been just writing songs in my house. You know, I would like record myself on like, for example, like I would call my mom's cell phone with my with the house phone, and then during the leave a message part, I played the beat, and then I would rap, and then so like that the voicemail part, I get to hear back me rapping on the beat. You know,
no way, I want to hear that.
I mean, those are completely gone. They were on flip phones and stuff, right? Like, but my first time stepping on stage and rapping, it felt real. You know, it felt like, oh, like this is not just something I do in my head and in my house, you know.
It's your first baby.
First baby. And I'm really grateful for Mr. Reed, you know, he was the choir director. He said, he's like, yeah, you can't, you know, your notes are no good, you know, but I heard you like to rap. So if you want to write a verse about God, about Jesus, about love, we can slide that into one of the songs, and you can sing and we can back you up. So I can really relate to that. And then like I assume once that feeling set in, you kind of just took it and ran with it. It was like, this is it for me.
Definitely. And same with my art teacher back in high school, Mr. Ice. I really do appreciate, because before me, I don't think any of my class or any kids from Stevenson actually targeted to just go for that art school route. So we didn't really have a curriculum built for, you know, kids that just wanted to apply for art schools. So after Mr. Ice found out that, you know, my passion is in fashion design and I wanted to, you know, go to Parsons or RISD or any of that, they kind of built a curriculum for me that were offering, you know, all the AP art classes, and there was like an AP 3D class that literally just had me and another girl. Like we only had 2 kids in that class, but they still offered that curriculum to us for support.
Awesome. That's like, that's like unheard of, kind of.
So I really am grateful for everything that I've learned and went through in Stevenson and just in that boarding school experience. And I feel like I was a lot more independent, because coming out from such an early on age, like we have to learn how to kind of deal with everything by ourselves without like parents or the family support. I mean, you especially, I mean, you coming here and you were by yourself, you know, like I came here and I lived with my mom and my stepfather, but like you being by yourself, that's definitely a different kind of, you know, aloneness, you know. So I was actually answering one of the questions from my therapist earlier. They're like, oh, how do you rate your relationships with your friends, with your family? And thinking back, like all my best friends are still my friends since boarding school, since high school, because we live together. They are honestly my second family, and I am reviewing. I was like reflecting, that I actually am a lot closer to them than I am close to my parents right now. I do want, if I do have a problem, I'll go to them first.
There's a different kind of trust there.
Exactly.
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm finding, as I'm getting older and learning more, having more awareness, that I can start talking to my mom in a way that's healing both of us. You know, like instead of kind of avoiding certain things that I know will make us uncomfortable, start to kind of addressing it, but with like a loving kind of patience and intention and an expectation that maybe she won't understand it, you know. Definitely. But I do think like I do think that I feel the same way. Like a lot of my friendships, a lot of like my real like trusted friend relationships are like with some of my friends. You know.
Definitely. And very grateful for them, for sure. Yeah.
Very grateful for them. And so I guess you kind of mentioned this earlier. By the way, like I got a little new shirt situation from Daisy. Yeah. I got some new pants too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the new stuff?
This is the new season from Fall Winter 24, yeah.
Great. So how you said something earlier about like your parents wanting to send you off to somewhere else, right? Like how did they feel about you choosing something like designing clothes and like be doing it like a creative situation?
So I am very grateful for both of my parents that, you know, when it comes to like a traditional
because they're Chinese right?
family,
like
they don't normally push you to be like, oh, just be full on creative and just go be an artist. So when I told my parents at first, I was like, Mom, I really wanted to, you know, apply for fashion design schools and, you know, pick up on my basic art skills a little bit. They were very supportive. So like this whole summer after before my senior year, I went back to Qingdao, and my mom like found me, you know, like the teachers to go to, you know, for oil painting, for sketching, for everything. And even when I told because originally I thought my dad would be, you know, a little bit, because my dad came from like a law major, you know, all that. He started his own business, so I wasn't sure that he would be on the same boat. But
especially being a lawyer.
Especially, yeah. And then he was like, oh yeah, no, but I mean, quote unquote, he was like, oh, it's nice for a girl to have a skill that you can, you know, just be with. If you can make clothes, then you can go anywhere, sort of in that mindset.
Sure.
Yeah, but so they were really supportive of me going to Parsons as a fashion design major. But when I wanted to start up my brand, that's when my dad was like, no, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, because I guess like because he, you know, he went through the starting up his own business through all the struggles being an entrepreneur, so he understands how much stress and anxiety it will bring you. So I think from last year I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, my dad is right in a lot of the ways. He's just like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, this is not like difficult? A 3-4 year. Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. You have to have the mindset. You have to be strong enough to, you know, take in all the disagreements or like difficulties that you're gonna definitely run into throughout this entrepreneur journey. But me being a Scorpio, I was just like, I'm just gonna go full on or nothing. Yeah, this is my life. You only live once, so I know that I'm gonna regret this 20 years later if I didn't try it now. But I still, one of the feedbacks when we first launched our first collection, being, you know, a New York resident, we started with full black.
When was that?
That was 2019 spring. So we just celebrated our 6-year anniversary. So 2019 March 1st, we launched our first season. My dad saw all the samples, you know, black brocade, black mini dresses, and his first reaction was, no one's gonna buy this. Like, he said it in my face when we were done with production, almost done with production. Like, I already, you know, submitted my full effort, and my dad was like,
timing.
Yeah, my dad was like, no one's gonna buy this. No one wears black brocade in Asia. That's an like unlucky thing for you to, because typically in traditional culture, it's for dead people. We call it sangfu. Like, white and black is tailored for, you know, funerals and stuff. So that really got me for a bit. Like, I remember I was back in China, because Qingdao, we have all the production, you know, all the fabric sourcing from there. I was like, oh no, like, am I doing this right? Like, should I still do this?
Yeah.
And within the month, I was just like, I gotta push through, because I can't cancel right now. They're already sewing the clothes. We're already making all the samples. We're getting ready for, you know, the lookbooks and everything. I was like, Dad, let me give it a try. You know, like, it doesn't hurt. If anything, I'll go with your route. I'll go find a job, be a designer for another brand. So we still launched the season start of March, and the reactions and the feedbacks we got were so much love. Everybody not obsessed, but they wanted to try them on, and it's something very new and very niche that they haven't seen on the market. So we've got like almost all good feedbacks from the first launch. So that was kind of like not an enlightenment, but a note in my head, be like, appreciate all my parents, but we are very different generations. and our targeted customer base is very different. For them, they grew up in China, they lived most of their life in China. It's a very different market. So me, even though much younger, but we're also a very young and new demographic that's craving for something niche and unique for, especially for the fashion presentation. So moving on, I was just like, I will still, as you know, 孝顺, I will still take in all the notes. Just tell me whatever you want, but it's up to me if I want to listen to them or not.
But that's beautiful. I mean, you know, he's not wrong. You know, I think I never even thought about that. But yeah, black qipao or stuff like that. That's very. I mean, you definitely see it more now.
You definitely see it more now, but back
traditionally,
then, it wasn't a thing.
I mean, so you know, because he's asking, like, you know, he's saying like, oh, no one's gonna buy this. You know, one of the questions I want to ask you, I guess this is more of a designer-y or like artistic question. Well, first of all, like at least the earlier stuff is very much obviously inspired by traditional qipao wear, right? What would be like qipao? Is there a word in English?
No,
I guess it is
just call it
qipao, right? Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. We keep it qipao.
Yes.
But in terms of like, you know, because you said you it's not like you were like a 12-year-old girl like thinking about designing clothes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when you started making garment, was there inspiration? Was there people that made clothes that was inspiring to you that you were like, oh, I like what they do with clothes, I want to do that?
I think because that was 2019 when I just graduated Parsons. I think that was the time where modern Chinese became a thing in China, like 新中式, it's booming in China. Like it's not just one designer. I think it was the start of an era where people are starting to appreciate, be like, oh, instead of, you know, following Western trends or like other countries' trend, there is so much that we can learn from our past history, from our past culture and aesthetics that we can bring back.
Right.
So that was the motivation, you know, being a customer and being someone that I've always wanted to identify myself with the clothing that I'm wearing. So like even before starting up the brand, I would, you know, every time I go back to China, I'll actively looking for like more modernized like tamzhuang or like short sleeves with like a little panko on the top, just to kind of highlight on those details. So I know that when I'm in America, when I wear those, people will be like, oh, I can tell where your heritage is from, or I can tell that you appreciate or you wanted to celebrate more of this Chinese culture and aesthetics. So that kind of gave me the motivation that I am the customer, that I was constantly looking for more, not modernized and in a way like a little bit mixed with the Western influence, that we wanted to portray what a modernized Chinese lifestyle can be, that could be comfortable for anybody with any cultural background.
Right.
Yeah.
So the inspiration wasn't like a designer. There wasn't any like a designer or somebody that was like, it was more inspiration from history of our past and
and I
That's
do
cool.
really appreciate, because I was supposed to graduate 2017 for my undergrad in Parsons for my BFA, but my thesis was the first collection that we did is all modern Chinese inspired, from, you know, full denim, qipao to hand embroidery on brocade. But after almost halfway through thesis, when we were, you know, looking at graduation dates and stuff, I was like, I still don't know what I want to do. Like, I know that I have this passion for modern Chinese, but I don't know much about our culture's history of fashion or any of that. So I decided to take one more year to finish my to start my fashion minor, and in that fashion studies minor. So in that fashion studies minor, I took a class that was mainly talking about the history of Chinese fashion. So I think I got more inspo from that course, thanks to Professor May.
That's such
from
a
that
specific course too. That's awesome.
Now that I learned that
this
they
was
don't
in
offer
Parsons?
it anymore. Yeah, I think it was only that 1-2 years that they had that class, and I was really lucky that, you know, when I saw the title, I was like, I gotta take this. And then through that course, that was when I realized that even as a Chinese, I didn't know where qipao came from. I just assumed, I was like, okay,
like I don't.
1930s, 40s, qipao just came out, and then that became like a very iconic style for us for the last century plus moving on. And then it was through that course that we learned that, okay, like qipao actually come from, you know, the chamsan, which is, you know, a Cantonese saying for long robes for male. So it was from the long robes by the end of Qing dynasty, where women weren't supposed to we weren't supposed to show any skin. Like we weren't supposed to show our ankles, our arms, like that is just a no-no. It wasn't until the Western influence started coming in by the start of 20th century, like the early 1900s, where, you know, a lot of bad things happened, but at the same time, that was when the Chinese women saw what the Western ladies are wearing, the Western women are wearing. In Shanghai and Beijing, they're like, oh, they're wearing dresses up to the knees. They're showing their arms, at least like to the sleeve part, to the short sleeve part. Then why can't we slowly update our fashion a little bit? So if you look at, I'll also share you the graphics if you need. So through like the start of 1900 to 1940s, it was a transition from very long qipao with, you know, very mini side slit to like shorter and shorter almost above the knees qipao. And then the sleeves also went from 100% long sleeves by your hand all the way up to short sleeves. Wow. So that was a very interesting timeline when I was learning that. Yeah, an evolution. And then as a customer, as Chinese, I was like, wow, I didn't even know that. Like back, we took 8-9 years of history when we were growing up, and we never really highlighted on, you know, how the women's thoughts are at the time. So I was like, okay, then it is up to me to let other people know that, hey, this is not an appropriation thing or anything. This is a baby of a Western and Eastern mix. But there was a pause from 1940s to 1980s where we didn't really have any upgrade to the qipao since then. And then starting from the 1980s, it was just all Western clothing because everybody was so inspired. We wanted to be more, our mindset, our taste, everything. We wanted to be more tailored to the Western world, that we kind of just forgot that, hey, we still have our own mixed babies in this 1900s world. So that really gave me the inspiration to be like, how can we bring it back, and how can we educate not just the Asian customer but towards the Western world too, that welcome to celebrate our babies together.
Wow, that's actually such a crazy backstory of the qipao, because I just always thought that was 100% Chinese, you know. I mean, it is Chinese.
It is within our mindset that we upgraded that.
But it is. But the fact that it does, the mindset behind it was inspired by, like, a desire to be more free. And that Western gaze, you know, looking this way and thinking like this is the free world, you know. I guess you kind of answered this, but how do you, like, so you I think you said you were designing for yourself. Right. So that's out of the way. Unless you have other answers for that, right? So I wanted to ask you who you're designing for, and how and what do you want people to feel when they're wearing DAWANG?
So you know, the first 3 years it was me designing everything. So we were like a one-woman team doing everything, and I am very fortunate that my best friend since high school, Abby, joined us as our co-creative director almost 3 years ago. So we've been kind of co-designing and co-directing everything together, and that was when I realized that it's not just me, because we come from a very similar background. You know, we all moved here around like before 16 and had like the second half of our, not the second half of our life, but, you know, a very decent half and half in China and in the US. So we understand that as people with Asian heritage, that we also always wanted to highlight or bring out the parts that we enjoy or like we appreciate from our past culture and aesthetics. But it wasn't until moving to New York that I realized that it's not just within the Asian community. There are so many people from outside of our community that also has this same goal, that they wanted to learn more about our history, our culture, and how can they be a part of this when it comes to this fashion revolution. So my goal, like, I guess starting out, because I grew up in China, I guess it was never a thing. We never really learned about appropriation until I moved here, because you know, growing up as a kid in China, I never had to face the kind of racism or the kind of like bully that a lot of the Asian American kids experienced here in America. So we've always been just in that mindset of, we are so proud of our culture and our aesthetics that we wanted to share it to the world, that we wanted to show it to the rest of the world, even that you know nothing about our fashion or our culture at all. This would be a great entry point for you to learn a little bit how brocade is originated from Asia, and how by little bits and pieces. So it's so that's in our brand image, that we says our goal is to welcome people of all cultural background to partake in the beauty of modern Chinese, and it's still our goal today. That's why you can see, like, it is a very, you know, calm loungewear item that I'm wearing right now with a black shirt, but we also have our knot button detail in the back with our custom brocade. So like, it's from all these small details that we're like, you don't have to understand or learn everything all at once, but if you appreciate this one detail, then I know that you'll be willing to learn more. The next time when you see something like that catches your eye, or even like a book that mentions about this, you want to know more about us. I
like that. It's like your way of telling our story, right? Like I mean, the detail of the when did you put the tone notes in there?
I think we did that like 4 years ago.
Oh, so it's always been there. That's crazy that I've never. I mean, maybe it's because like I'm Chinese, so I'm like used
so we're so used to seeing the accents.
I never noticed, but that is such a cool detail, especially for people that are learning Chinese and that are not Chinese. They might, you know, and they also happen to be a fan of the brand. But oh, I get that. That's the second note. That's the third note. You know. That's cool.
Because I've realized that we have pinyin and the Chinese characters, so a lot of people just know our Chinese characters as like the only, you know, like Chinese form of language.
Right.
But I was like, wait, then all the French brands has their accents on, like to teach people how to pronounce it or make it look a little fancier.
True.
We
Hermes?
We gotta do that for our pinyin too.
Hermes?
Yes.
So, okay, well, earlier you were saying that, you know, okay, so, you know, you didn't grow up here, so you were able to feel that proudness still, right? Because you came here when you were 15.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No.
You came here when you were... What am I choking on?
More water.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Yeah. So you came here, you were 15, so you felt like that you were able to maintain a lot more of the pride of being from China and being Chinese.
Yeah.
I remember my only time going to Oahu, Hawaii, and it was so many Asian people there, and I was like shocked. I was like, wait, this doesn't feel like the America that I know, especially of Boston and New York, you know. So, I remember asking my friend's mom. My friend's mom was like, "Yeah, I never really experienced any sort of discrimination growing up in Oahu until I went to the mainland, you know." But I feel like at 15 years old, coming to America, I mean, there had to been still moments of reminder that like you are not from here, right? Like, were there moments where you thought about, oh, I'm an immigrant, or like you don't really think about that?
I think I do really appreciate my boarding school's experience. Also on that everybody was really friendly, because it wasn't just, we weren't just going to high school. We're also, everybody is starting to learn how to live with themselves, because we're I think 80% of all my classmates, we had to stay on campus. We all lived on campus, so people were more supportive to the living style, be like, okay, let's learn how to do laundry together, let's learn, you know, all the basics together. So
it's more of a community.
It was more of a community that all the kids are helping each other out, no matter the race.
So yeah, what was the demographic like? Was there mostly Asians?
No, it was mostly white. It was mostly white. We had when I went in, I want to say we have around like 10 to 15 like Chinese speaking classmates, you know, Hong Kong, Taiwan, mainland together. So it was a very small Asian community, but I am really grateful. Like my best friend Andy, you know, we have this small like Asian community where we will celebrate Lunar New Year together, all the small festivals, we'll go out for dinner, or Andy will host a party together. So we always felt close within our Asian community, but also outside, because, you know, when it comes to dorming situations, you can't really pick your roommates. So my sophomore year, both of my roommates who are white, like they were all very supportive. They know that my English is not perfect, so they will always help out. So I never really felt that discrimination until intro of COVID. So moving to New York, I really loved it here, you know, being the melting pot of cultures, the center of the world. Like I loved how diverse the city is, that you get to meet so many people from all kinds of different culture backgrounds. But it wasn't start of COVID, because I lived right by Times Square, where, you know, where the most traffic is happening from. And because I guess as Chinese, we learned that we have to put on our mask, I guess. We took it a little more serious. Yeah, we were more sensitive to this to this topic.
If you were Chinese and coughing at that time?
Oh, no. Yeah. So I guess, I think start of February, I started wearing masks a little bit, just because my parents were like, oh, a lot of people are getting sick, like you need to watch out. So I started wearing masks to class, and then the first time I encountered was, I think, on my way back from school to my apartment, walking through Times Square, I ran into two tourists who are not even like American. They were like, why don't you go back to China? What are you doing here?
Right.
They just assume that I mean I am Chinese, but it's just really funny that they just assume that you're Chinese just by seeing that you're wearing a mask.
Right.
So it was within those 2 months, I think I encountered like 3 to 4 different situations where I was yelled at, or, you know, like some slur words like this that made me feel really uncomfortable. And that was the first time I was just like, wow, this is really not my place. This is really not my home. Like I thought that, you know, everybody can see New York as their own little harbor, little home, but I guess not.
You're like, this is not middle America.
This is
New
not,
York.
This is New York, but I feel like I'm in the middle of somewhere that's, you know, less educated. But yeah, so that was the first time I was just like, maybe I should go back to China. Maybe I should move back.
Actually, you thought about that? Because you felt like not safe, or because you felt like, you know, because of the way you look, that there's really only limited potential for you to achieve in America? I
think it's mostly because I felt unsafe. That was when the time, you know, when we were seeing so many horrible things on the news. You know, like high school kids
you're like, what if I'm like waiting for the subway and someone pushes me?
And I'm not that big. I'm just like, I know nothing. The same way. I haven't worked out in 10 years. I don't know any like defensive skills. Like, what am I gonna do? So I remember like looking up for like taser options, or like you know, pepper sprays. I was just like, at least something to make myself feel safe on the street. I still remember like one of my best friends, she taught me something, was like, just act crazy. Just put your fist like this all the time, and you walk like this on the street. No one's gonna try to even like come to you or make a fuss of anything. But that is such a crazy mindset that we have to be. We have to do that. But so that was the only time where I was like, wow, I really don't feel welcomed here in any way.
I think for me too, you know, I think for me, like, I like growing up, there wasn't that many like direct moments of threat. You know, I feel like there were a lot of microaggressions, right? There were a lot of stuff, like, for example, this question of like, oh, where you from? Like, oh, I'm from New York. Right. Oh, but like, well, what about before that? Oh, right, I actually went to high school in Boston, in middle school and high school in Boston. Right, but like, you know, where you really from, right? I mean, I know everyone, you know, there's no harm in it, you know, but like, you're not, you know, I mean, people move here from Germany, France, Czechoslovakia all the time, you know, like, but it seems that like, the way that we look, seem to be like the most foreign look in a way, you know, like, I feel like people don't really look at a Spanish person the same way they look at like a Asian face, you know. But I do think that like for me, like there was one moment that stands out. I used to play lacrosse because because I saw all the white boys got the girls and the white boys play lacrosse. I mean, this is just like high school I was just a ball of insecurity, you know. If I didn't have hip hop, if I didn't have rap at the time, I don't know I don't know how I would have ended up, you know. But yeah, we were playing lacrosse against a school called Catholic Memorial, and they were just known to be a school full of like, you know, overtly racist kids, you know. And I actually met someone who went to Catholic Memorial a few months ago, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we sucked," you know, like we had the worst people, you know. But yeah, like this kid, I remember like this dude, you know, they lost, and then this guy. They were losing, and this guy came up to me and decked me with this stick and goes, "Stay down, chink," you know. But they were also dropping the N-word left and right. It was like a crazy day, you know. And like this is like all high school kids, you know, like. But besides that, and like besides, you know, some very stark moments in COVID, it's mostly stuff that I think it's microaggressions, you know. But I do think those have messed with my confidence over the years.
No, for sure.
You know, like you know, and I think like a lot of the and a lot of the times when I think about what I want out of all of this, like reflecting and like, you know, me talking about it in my music, like I'm not asking for like an apology, to be honest. You know, like I know the same people that mistreated the Chinese railroad workers have died you know, these are different people. For me, it's mostly kind of almost like self-therapy, you know, to write it out, to kind of like to write it out, to kind of understand how our people's stories were in this country. So once you know that, like, oh, we actually are not as foreign as we're made to feel, then in moments when people try to make you feel like that, you can be like, nah, don't even try that. You know, don't even play that. You know, like that's more what's important to me than like, you know, being like, we want reparations or something, you know, like it's more for myself. That like I can walk into a room where I'm the only Chinese person and feel at ease. Because up until recently in my life, like that's a very uncomfortable situation to be in, right? And then you almost feel them kind of like sometimes in situations where you are the only like, you know, non-white person, like you see them like overcompensating. They try to like, you know, they're like, oh, where you from? Where you really from? You know, not knowing they're actually making it worse. You know. And you know, I think, and in talking with people about this concept, I realized that a lot of people have different experiences than me. You know, like yourself, right? Like, you know, you are more of an immigrant in a sense because I came here at 11. I had no choice but to make friends with just whoever was around, you know. But I feel like I would have thought that you would have had a harder time, but it seemed like
definitely had a harder time when I had, you know, not the perfect English. So,
sure. But people were kind to you.
People were kind. I still remember like my first English class starting of high school. You know, we had this Cisco system where I had no idea how it runs. You were supposed to.
What's Cisco system?
So, so it's kind of like Canva for college. Canvas for college. You know, you submit all your homework, everything online through a portal.
Okay, got it.
And we have like an inner email channel. So my first introduction, where I wrote it, you know, based on what we learned in China, and be like, "Hi, my name is Daisy Wang. I like to how do you do? I like to play badminton. I like to like very, you know, not in a native way of speaking English. I remember I wrote a full paragraph. I accidentally sent it to my full class instead of submitting that homework to my teacher.
Very
so my
cool.
entire class saw that email.
Embarrassing.
So embarrassing. 80% like, you know, like actually Americans. And I was so ashamed that night. I still remember I was sobbing. I was just like, oh my god, how are people gonna look at me? They're gonna see me as this like crazy, stupid, you know, don't even know how to work the homework right kind of situation. But everybody was nice to me. It wasn't it was only like my good friends who will like joke about this till this day. But I still remember like even our English teacher at the time, after seeing that, he would be like, Daisy, okay, let's have some one-on-one sessions. Let me, you know, just guide you through some of the basics. So that also gave me the confidence to be like, okay, I can't speak, you know, poor English for a bit. People are just gonna have to adjust. I am learning. Like, that is how you learn every language.
Yeah, and I wonder if being in Cali made a difference too. You know, I feel like on the East Coast and the West Coast, there's a lot more Asian faces. Yeah, you know?
But I was in a town where we didn't even have like a legit Asian market.
Right.
There is a tiny room, like a tiny store like this. That's just fully packed with all the ramen and all that stuff. But we don't have like a Asian presentation there.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Very interesting. I mean, because the place I grew up in a suburb outside of Boston, and there was a lot of Asian people. You know, like there was a lot of help. Like when I went to high school and middle school and high school, when I went to middle school and I didn't speak English, they had like the ESL classes, right? Like, there was a lot of grace, you know, I think from other kids, you know, I think a lot more of the issues, came later, you know? But, you know, even when I was a kid, like, just for example, like the school of the example of middle school dances. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, you know, I step into a middle school dance, right? Like, and, like, I can't tell if girls are turning me down because the way I look or because something else. You know? But when I look around and I see all the Asian girls are into white kids, right? That makes me think it has to do with the way I look, you know? And I definitely, like, carry that with me, like, for a long time, and I think in many ways probably still do, you know, and that was in like an environment where people were very supportive of Asian immigrant students. Again, they had the ESL classes and stuff, you know, and I just think like the way that America has been set up, you know, wasn't the most conducive place for like a Chinese boy to grow up.
Exactly. You know? And I feel like back then, you know, when it comes to like the culture, education, and aesthetics, like you don't see much. Not even good.
There's less sensitivity.
You don't see any like masculine Asian male presentations on TVs or nothing. So like people don't have that image. Be like, okay, like we're actually honestly the same. It's just the language barrier. It's just the look. It's just the skin. Everything else, we're exactly the same. Right.
There hasn't been any Asian male in like pop culture that was deemed like a catch.
Like a cool, like a
for
cool
sure.
catch.
So I mean, I feel like I haven't seen you push DAWANG in China yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, or going forward, what's your plan with DAWANG? You want to keep it in the States? You want to like more international?
I definitely want to push it more international.
Right.
But being, you know, as a Chinese, I think because my advantage is that we are in the Western culture realm a little bit more. So my goal is actually we wanted to, starting from America, we wanted to test out or like educate and celebrate this culture and this lifestyle in Europe before we head back to China. Because I feel like in China, we already have a presentation there. Everybody is already proud. It's up to these other places where people aren't, you know, exploring that or aren't feeling proud yet that we have to show them first before heading back home.
I mean, I really find like a parallel between that and like really the song, right? Like this idea of reminding of you of your past, you know, and getting power from that, you know. Albeit we're doing different things, but I do feel like there's that parallel.
Yeah, no,
here,
definitely.
You know?
That's why we became friends. You know,
Yeah,
Mandy, we all come from different industry. Yeah,
but we
have the same goal.
Yeah. So okay, eventually you're gonna take it worldwide, you know. And right now we're just rocking in the States.
Yes.
Until
I can hire a team.
Yeah.
We'll try to expand.
Well, Ting Hua was helping you with some stuff,
yeah,
right?
Ting Hua was helping us with ads. I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Do you think about being American? Like, do you ever think about like one day staying here and raising kids here and getting citizenship? I
am applying. Right now I'm on artist visa. I am applying for a green card right now.
Okay.
But the main
so
purpose.
You're making the steps.
Yes, but the main purpose for that is I just wanted to not have to go to an embassy for a visa situation.
Sure.
That's just like every time it's
Pain
2
in the
weeks.
butt.
Yeah. But my eventual goal is actually I do envy anybody who's a citizen of the world. I don't think because
where do I get that passport?
Yeah, no, seriously. I'm just like, okay, yeah. If that's.
But what do you mean by that? I mean, you are a
want.
citizen of the world.
Like,
I
sort of, yeah,
like,
but I also
envious
just the
about.
freedom for you to being able to travel to anywhere without considering be like, oh, I'm a Chinese going to.
Oh, so you're saying
Barcelona,
you're saying that the U.S. passport is a citizen of the world.
No. So I don't want a
accessible?
passport. I don't want the passport at all. Yeah, I'd rather have green cards out of Europe, out of America, instead of
how many
or
green
like
cards
a working
can you have?
visa.
All over the place.
All over. As long as you don't have a passport, you can have as many green cards as you want.
No way.
Except I'm not sure about China, but everywhere else,
right.
yeah. That's why I'm never giving up my Chinese passport. We are besides everything
else,
we are the safest, you know, when it comes to because you see on the news, be like wherever you know, in a smaller country, if there's war happening, if there is anything, we come pick you up. We make sure that you get home safe.
Wow.
And that is something, and especially I think in my blood, this life, I'm just born and raised Chinese.
I need to get my passport back.
Seriously? Yeah.
How do I swap my American passport back for the Chinese one?
Stay there for at least like 10, 15 years, man. So so my goal is that I wanted to experience as much as in life as possible through different cultures. This is literally the next topic I was going to talk to you off camera.
Okay.
Is I've been in New York for 12 years. I mean, I've been in America for 15 years. And I feel like I can't say that I've experienced and seen everything
of America.
But I mean, we only get this one life, right? Like,
I mean, how much of America do you want to see?
True.
Like I drove across America. Yeah. It was not. It was.
Some
it was
of the
cool.
Places you
it was
kind of don't have to go
like,
check out.
You know.
Yeah.
Definitely don't need to go to Little Rock, Arkansas, ever again in my life.
Yeah, and then my parents actually they moved to Barcelona during COVID, so they're in Europe.
To live in Barcelona
they
right
live
now?
in Barcelona right now. Yeah, my dad is chilling. Like
that's so cool. Yeah. I mean, like I have never been to Europe.
Yeah. So that's actually my goal is that if I can stay or if I can experience the different continents, the different culture throughout my life, that's actually that's been my dream since I grew up. Yeah. I hope the embassy people don't see this or whoever is dealing with my I'm definitely not wanting to become a citizen, so please pass. So please give my green card a pass.
I'm actually I just dropped off my passport to get a new visa so I can go back to China. Which was like super difficult during COVID. You know? And those 3 years when I couldn't get back to China, I was thinking like, man, if there's a way I could get my Chinese passport back, like I'm doing it, you know.
But it is the hardest from what I heard. It's hard for you to.
But it is easier to get around with a U.S. passport.
Yeah.
Like that's just objectively true. You know, everywhere you go, like you don't really need a visa.
Yeah, that's true.
Besides China and like
true.
A couple
and like
places.
a few countries.
All right, let's see. I mean, I feel like I covered a good amount, but there's definitely some other stuff that I didn't write down that you said I wanted to.
Sorry, Boba whined a little bit.
Oh no, Boba's great. Boba has been so good. Oh yeah. So, what do you wish was something that's easier about what you do, and also, are there any specifically really difficult parts of what you do that you actually really enjoy? And I'll give you an example. For example, I wish that I had a studio that was not in my bedroom, that was in a nice place that I can just call mine, and just know that my work is consistent. You know, because a lot of times I'm recording at different places, because these places, they're good quality places, but I have to kind of work on their schedule. So that's something that I wish was easier. You know, I guess that's more like a money situation.
I feel you. I feel you.
But something that's really difficult that I enjoy, which is I didn't before, but now I do, which is editing. You know, because it's a lot easier for me to kind of go with the very first thing that always comes. But I've realized that a lot of times that's not always the best thing. But sometimes it is. And then you have to recognize when those times are. But a lot of times it isn't, but it's just like I get lazy and I'm like, no, my instinct is good. I shouldn't touch it. But now I'm like realizing, oh, editing is where a lot of the like magic happens, you know? So, and I when I say editing, I mean like rewriting lyrics. You know, sometimes like I'll write a verse, I'm like, that's it. And then like, let me take my time, write it again, and then I'll come up with something better, you know? But it's really annoying. Because
you're doubting yourself. Like
you're doubting yourself. Also, like you have the full song done already. You know, now you're like, all right, if you change one thing, then you got to change the other stuff. You know. So, what about you?
So one thing that I wish I could have done when we started up was have a full team. Like kind of form the team before I started up, because I think that definitely comes from a lot of the parts come from like my insecurity about. I understand that this is such a niche culture, niche topic, a niche aesthetic in America. Is this gonna work out? With it? I didn't trust myself. Like I didn't trust my vision. I was just like, will this vision work out? Because normally when people start up a brand, they'll be like, okay, let me form a team. Let me persuade, you know, let me get a finance manager, a marketing manager. Like, this is the goal. We got this. But when I first started out, I was like, I know I'm the targeted customer, but is there actually an audience here in America? So instead of, you know, creating such a big team that 50% it might not work out, let me test this out first by myself. And we are very, I don't want to, I guess I did have the vision. There is a market here. People loved it. But if I were a little bit more confident about what I was going to do, about what I wanted to do, then I guess my situation right now would be a lot different, because we're still struggling to form a team now, but it's harder since that we already kind of have a path, and it's hard for me to kind of adjust the path based on, you know, adding the team members and everything. And then the funding part is definitely a big part too.
Right, like people have expectations now because they see the brand at like a certain level. Right.
And also like having no financial knowledge or like no business background, it was hard for us. We just started looking for a funding pitch. We're just starting to do pitches for funding and all that stuff. But for a lot of the fashion brands, this is like very late, because normally people do it first. They get the funding before they start up the business. Versus right now, I tested out my vision. It works. Now I'm going for the funding route. Yeah, so that is something that I definitely wish that I could have figured out, or, you know, I'd be more confident about when we first started this up. I talked to a few of my best friends who kind of like saw me throughout the journey. I mean, even like our co-creative director right now, Abby, because I was so insecure myself that I know they would be great help. They would be a great add-on to the team, but I just didn't reach out at the time, because I was just like, I don't want to fuck up our relationship, or I don't want to, you know, disappoint you.
If your idea was no good, you feel like you're wasting your time.
Yeah, but moving on, my friends are like, you should have asked me. Like, I 100% believed in this. So I think having enough confidence and, you know, believe in what you're doing is definitely like the first step when you wanted to do anything, like starting up. Got you. And difficulty, I guess,
that you enjoy.
I enjoy. That is the education part. Is since we started up, because of my background is a little bit different versus, you know, the American-born Asians here, that I didn't have that flip to be like, okay, like, a lot of the people that grow up here, they were yelled at, you know, had like racist slurs throwing at them growing up till I don't even know what age.
Right.
So in their mentality, this appropriation thing is more like, you hated on me for this, then why can't you wear my stuff now? So this is something that I guess I never thought of before starting up the brand, because I was like, we want to celebrate. If you're wearing this, I'm happy, because you want to learn more about this. You want to celebrate more about this. So that's something that since we started the brand, we've, you know, talking about like the welcoming people of all backgrounds is part of the education that we wanted to do. Like the qipao, the mix of the babies, is something that we wanted to let more people that's not coming from an Asian culture background to know and to celebrate. So every time when I see a non-Asian customer coming in to be like, I understand what you're doing, you know, I follow your Instagram, I know exactly why you wanted to do the modern Chinese brocade, why you wanted to do that, and wanting to buy a piece or, you know, style in their wardrobe and tag us on Instagram, that gave me so much, you know, joy and happiness to be like, they understand.
Yeah.
And we, you know, this is, I did one more person right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The work felt like Yeah, that is cool for like a non-Asian person to come in, but like, yo, I understand that this is actually like you said, like a baby from mixed situations. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's hard for you to anticipate the backlash of people being like, why are you encouraging white people to wear this? Right? Like, I can see that. I mean, you know, I think for me, I feel very proud when I step into a Sichuan restaurant and I see mad like white folks eating spicy food.
Exactly,
you know? I think culture exchange and, you know, participating in one another's culture, if the intention is right, if the intention is not there to exploit, I think it's the best way to really bring us together. You know, it's kind of be like, if I eat what you eat, you know, you listen to what I listen to, you know, I move the way that you move, you know, like you start realizing once all these tiny connections with each one of them, you're like, oh, we're just alike, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that, you know, and do you find like when there is that backlash, it comes from Asian people? Like with that understand the context differently than you do. Right. And I get pushback from Asian Americans too, because how I see myself as an Asian American, you know, doesn't fit how they see themselves as Asian American, you know. And for them, like the survival instinct is more like, let me change my name from, you know, something they can't pronounce to something that's easier for everybody to do. Again, this is survival instinct, so I don't blame anybody for this stuff, right? Like when I first came, my mom asked me if I wanted to change my name, but they could say Bohan, you know, Bohan, so I didn't, you know.
No, but seriously, I'm so jealous of all my friends' Chinese names who, you know, it's easier to pronounce, because my full name is Wang Jingwen. And I know that it's going to take me...
Wang Jingwen.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, I have to have an English name. Yeah, but if my name is any easier to pronounce, I wouldn't too. Like, I would love to keep that as part of it.
I mean, again, like, I think all of this is not really... I think these are all part of the story of how we, you know, survive in America. You know, how we find a place to belong.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's like you said, like earlier, with Chinese people you're gonna say DAWANG, with white people you're gonna say DAWANG. You know, and I'm the same way. You know, Bohan Lane. You know, like. And my friend Ashin said, you know, we're just so used to doing the work for the other people that we're like, whatever. You know, like we get it. It's because, you know, they, you know, and like, I think that's
the time is changing.
The time is changing. Yeah. But I do think that's true. Like we have been doing the work for a lot for people, you know, I do think. like you said, the paradigm is starting to shift. I think such a big moment was when Everything Everywhere All at Once won 7 Oscars. To be honest, I love the movie. Yeah. I didn't think it was 7 Oscars good because I thought The Whale was really good.
Yeah.
You know, The Whale had this supporting actress in it. I forgot her name, but she should have won supporting actress instead of Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. You know, but there was a lot of
love for that movie.
A lot of love for the movie, but for like the Asian American community, you know, like because of that time, like you said. The Asian American story was always, I mean, for me growing up, I was either like, it's either like about black people or about white people, you know, like there was no like
other cultures.
Yeah, like, all right, Chinese food,
our
martial arts, that's it, you know. And like I remember you know, on tour in the States with like a really big Chinese rap group, and they're on stage, they're like, oh, we're here to spread Chinese culture. And you know, I respect this group. They've had a lot of success. But in that moment, I was like, what part of this is Chinese culture? You look Chinese, but your style, your hairstyle, you know, you got dreads, you got these big chains, you got neckties, you got this. Everything about you is very much like a black culture thing, you know? But I like I like the energy that they were bringing. You know, we want to represent something Chinese, you know, and I appreciate that.
Definitely.
But I think, and also I struggle with it too, with like, you know, my music, you know, because I know very well that I'm participating in a black form of art. You know, it's rooted very much in black culture. You know. And sometimes I think about, like, for example, artists like Cai Guoqiang. They work with firework, like gunpowder, like that's Chinese as hell, you know. And I think about, like, then I get like a full-on grown respect for, you know, people like Bruce Lee, you know, who's really out here spreading Chinese culture, you know. And then like I find it interesting that he married like a white woman, you know. You know, it's just it's his own like thing in itself, you know. It's like, does he do that because he's like, you know, all that's aside, we're just people, you know? Or does he do that because he's like, this is the most macho thing an Asian man could do, you know, like at the time, marry like a white girl, you know, like that kind of inspires like the line in the songs, like, you know, what does it take to get over the Great Wall of America? Pretty white bitch, you my only hope. Come here, let me marry you, you know? Because I feel like, you know, if you push it to the extreme, it seems like the only way you're not going to get that question of where you really from is if you look white. You know? Aside from some career advice, what would you tell the 15-year-old Daisy that just came here from China to the States?
Definitely be proud. Okay. Be proud of who you are.
But I feel like you already was proud.
I've always been proud.
Yeah, I feel like you always was proud.
I am really grateful for my parents. But also growing up, one of my favorite subjects is history. I love Chinese history. I would grow up watch I forgot what that channel is, but I think every week they will have a professor kind of like talk through like a different dynasty within China, and I'm just like, I am so proud of our 5,000 years of history, how we survived, how throughout different dynasties, but we still have the blood in us. So yeah, be proud and not be so insecure about everything you do. Like, everybody makes mistakes, you know, like you gotta find a way to justify them within your heart instead of worrying about what other people. That is definitely one of my biggest disadvantages, that I worry too much and I care too much about what other people think and do. I'm such a people pleaser's personality. Like, care for yourself first. Learn what you would want and learn what you would love. I think if I figured that out earlier, it wouldn't take me, you know, 17, because I didn't actually take that fashion design class until I was 16 and a half, to actually find what you wanted to do in life and what you're passionate about. Because I think coming from a very traditional family, that is hard. Because growing up, your parents would be like, you gotta go learn English, go learn math, go do everything so you can achieve a better grade in school. That is the first goal. And then it's what you want to do. Or even not even that, the second one, it will be make some money first, and then third, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What would make you happy in life? So I think if on an earlier age I get to experience more and actually ask myself the question, what makes you happy and what do you want to do, instead of trying to fit all the stereotypes to be like, oh, Asians, I have to be good at math. I have to make sure that I finish my AP math. I have to, make sure that I'm a cum laude student or whatever. Be proud and be confident of what you want to do. Like, set your path instead of be like, okay, I have to make my parents proud and happy first. Because I still remember, like, one of my classmates back in high school, he is so talented in art. He got into RISD. He's the only kid in our class that got into Rhode Island Institute of
the penis
Study
logo
and
school.
Design. Yeah. His parents said no. He's like, we want you to be a dentist. Go be a dentist. And he dropped out. He actually followed the path that I still wonder till this day that if he's happy right now, or does he regret, or would he wanted to go back and get another art degree. But I mean, at the same time, I also regret that I didn't go for a business. If I knew that I was wanting to start up a brand and all that, I also need to learn more about the business side. But
again, I'm not talking about career advice. Yeah, I'm talking about like personal advice you would give to a 15-year-old Daisy. So be more confident.
Be more confident. Be more confident and try to not do what you think would please others, but do what you want to do. Yeah.
I mean, I still have to say, like, getting here at 15 and figuring out what you want to do at 16 and a half is not that crazy, So I'm really happy to hear about that part of your
But also,
life.
I guess, if I can, educate other people about our culture and aesthetics more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very heavy for 15-year-old,
Yeah, to be like, do you know?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay. So last question: what are you working on now? What's the new batch of DAWANG that we're gonna get?
Yeah, so we're working on our new season. That's coming by the end of May. So we're doing like a little launch party event,
which
in
is
Nolita.
2025 spring summer. Okay.
Yes, and we're also looking to expand our categories. So like from pets, accessories and stuff. Wow. And we just started.
That's when you're gonna start making the big money.
Hey, hopefully, thank you.
People love their pets.
Yeah, but also it was coming from my own need. I was just like, I realized that everybody loves boba. When
Boba's not flying enough.
Yeah, we need. But that, and we also just launched our wedding customization. So that is a part that I really wanted to do because, we started doing our custom fabric per wedding, like fitting to the bride and groom's needs. To me, that's a way of sustainable fashion. If I create this something that you would want to keep for life longer or pass on to, it has to have some more special meanings than just a $8,000, $10,000 price worth garment. There has to be something that's more than just that in the value of the pieces. So that's what we're trying to offer for our wedding customization. Is this fabric that we create for you is one of a kind, lifelong, whatever you were wanting to do with that. And because the minimum order is a little big, so like within the yardage, even if you want to make something for your future kids, for that, we'll make sure to have that available.
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all get on that before the price goes way up.
We're still testing out. So
Wait, did you make something for wedding?
We did Andy and May's wedding.
That's right.
So that was our first full test of custom. So the fabric on our on the brocade fabric, it has the mat in Washington Square Park. So we have like all the details from when they first met to both of their last names in Chinese and English, everything engraved in that brocade. So from all the gift bags to the wedding guests to
that's
like the smaller
that's
the piece that they would want to keep. And every time when I look at it, I still have that bag. I'll be like, oh, this is from their wedding, and I would like to still wear it out because it's such a cute item, but make it more meaningful.
That's awesome. Well, Daisy, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody, say hi to Boba. Everybody can go check out Daisy on DAWANG New York.
Yes.
On Instagram. And I guess there's a lot of stuff I've been missing on the page because I need to go check out a lot of the historical and some of the stuff. So
We can talk anytime.
All right. Until next time. Thank y'all.
Bye.